So is the Google Data Analytics certificate actually worth it in 2025? Look. The internet is filled with college dropouts giving garbage advice about certificates that they haven't actually completed themselves. And these idiots are either paid shills who've never used what they're promoting, or they're just regurgitating what everyone else says because they're too lazy to do the real research themselves. Now, I run a YouTube channel with over 1 million subscribers and I make multiple six figures per month on YouTube, plus I have multiple businesses, so I don't need to lie to you to make a quick buck from some affiliate link. And here's the raw truth. Most certificates are complete trash that waste your time and money. But the question is the Google Data Analytics certificate one of them? Or could it actually be worth it in 2025? So I'm seeing wildly different experiences from different people taking this course. One person with zero tech background became a corporate data analyst, while another with an engineering degree specifically called it a waste of time. So you're seeing answers that are all over the place when it comes to the reviews online. But with the median entry-level salary now at $95,000 according to Google, and over 251,000 open jobs in data analytics, this certificate has probably gotten your attention and you want to know if it's worth it or not. So I'm going to rate this certificate on 7 critical factors. First, time to completion, how long it actually takes to get the certificate. 2, the current cost, which has changed. 3, real industry demand in 2025. 4, the salary you can realistically expect. 5, the quality of the teaching materials, including what's missing. And 6, the actual chances of landing a job with just this certificate. And then finally, the overall value compared to alternatives. Now, I've done extensive research with these certificates. I've recommended them to many of my students, so I've gotten feedback on them. And when I first made this video a few years back, they were relatively new. So now we have a much better idea of the pros and cons, and that's exactly what we're going to go over in this video. And this was a highly requested update. So if you want more brutally honest content like this, go ahead and gently tap that like button. Now let's get into it. And I promise to give you an unfiltered truth here, even if Google wouldn't like what I have to say. All right. So first, when it comes to the time to completion, I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10. Coursera still claims that it takes around 6 months if you study about 10 hours per week. Now that's around 240 hours total. But this is actually complete bullshit for most people. Based on the reviews that I've analyzed, most people finish it in a maximum of 2 to 3 months, not 6. And many of them are not even spending 10 hours a week. Now, I think the reason that Google does this is because they want it to appear like as if it takes longer to get the certificate. And that makes it seem more legit to companies that are likely to make the decision to hire people that have the certificate. Now, let me be real with you on the certificate game and how it works. And this is for certificates and certifications. There's only 2 things that matter when it comes to certs. 1, how valuable the actual cert is in terms of the information that it teaches you and how good they are at teaching you that information. And 2, the thing that is actually, unfortunately, much more important, how valuable the cert is viewed by hiring managers and business owners and decision makers. Okay, so the first thing is you need to make sure you're choosing the right certs, right? If you're trying to get a cybersecurity job and you choose a data analytics cert, I mean, it might be a little bit helpful, but it's probably not going to be the best choice. So that's the first thing. But then you want to make sure that the certificate itself is actually valuable when it comes to the information that it teaches you, and it's not just a waste of your time. But the funny thing is, and I'm not going to name any exact certs out there, I mean, you can fill in the blanks if you want to, but there are some cert companies that are well respected by hiring managers, business owners, etc. And so if it's on your resume, it looks really good. But in reality, the information that they teach you is either outdated or it's just plain stupid. But paradoxically, I would still recommend those certs to people who asked me. Why? Because it's all about what business owners, hiring managers, and decision makers think of the cert. Okay, so that's the thing that matters a lot more than just how good it is. And you really have to understand this when it comes to the world of certificates. 80% of the value is simply in the perception of the cert. So when you understand this, you're going to see why Google is saying these things like, you can get it done in 6 months if you do 10 hours a week, because that increases the perception value of the certificate, okay? Even though there was one Reddit user that literally said they completed it in 4 hours, which they could be trolling, but that's insanely fast. Now, with that being said, what I love about this certificate is that it's completely self-paced. If you work a crazy job with insane hours, no problem. You want to binge it over a couple weekends, you can do that as well. The flexibility alone makes this worth considering, especially when you compare it to rigid college programs or boot camps that lock you into their schedule. And let's be honest, time is money. So while some people are wasting 4 years and drowning in $80,000 in student loan debt for a fancy degree, you could be working in your new data analytics job in just a few months, if you play your cards right. Now, it is just a puncher's chance, and also chances are you are going to have to do more outside of just the certs, which I'm going to get into later on in the video. So for time to completion, I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10. It's pretty hard to beat.
Quick break. This video is sponsored by me. Most of you don't know that I actually have my own coaching program on personal branding and then growing and making money on YouTube. And this is good for complete beginners, maybe even people who just want to get a job by growing their personal brand, all the way up to people who are very advanced on YouTube. And they get to work directly with myself and my team to help them reach their goals. Now, we are opening up 3 to 5 spots, and this is pretty rare. We usually don't have these open. We usually only limit them to select people. But we're opening up 3 to 5 spots, and you can check those out down in the description and the pinned comment below. And in this program, you'll get to work directly with myself and other people who are highly successful on YouTube. Just as an example, Sean was able to go all the way from being stuck, not making very much money on his channel, to making over $500,000 a month. Now, that's an example of one of my more advanced students, but there's lots of examples of people who started off from scratch and they got to 5K a month, 10K a month, etc. So check that out down in the description and the pinned comment below.
All right, next is cost. So how much will this set you back? Well, as of April 2025, the Google Data Analytics certificate costs about $49 per month on Coursera. Now, when it comes to the cost, they do some weird stuff where sometimes if you're in a certain location, it might cost less. There's certain promotions that they do throughout the year where they might cost less, et cetera, et cetera. So just go ahead and click the link in the description and the pinned comment below if you want to see the actual cost for yourself, your situation, the time period, and the location. Additionally, they do offer scholarships if you are in a hard financial situation.
Just get one of those full scholarships like they gave me.
Wow.
So even if you took the full 6 months to take the course, it would be about $300. Now, for comparison, data analytics boot camps are typically $10,000 to $15,000. College degrees are going to be $40,000 to $100,000, and other professional certifications are often well over $1,000. But here's the insider tip that I bet nobody told you. You can get it completely free with the Coursera trial, technically. For instance, one Reddit user specifically said that I was able to complete it within the trial period. So basically, you can kind of look at the material in it for free, and then once you feel confident in your skills, you can sign up to the free trial and complete the cert. So technically, you could get through it for free. Now, is that a realistic timeline for most people? Hell no. But it's possible if you already know some of the material or you can dedicate some serious time to it. Alternatively, many libraries offer free Coursera access, and if your employer has a learning stipend, they will almost certainly cover this. Bottom line is the insanely low cost makes this an absolute no-brainer to at least try. Even if you hate it, you're out $40 at most, and if you take a $12,000 boot camp and realize you hate data analytics, well, I hope you like eating ramen for the next few years. And same thing goes with a college degree. Now for cost, this gets a perfect 10 out of 10. You literally cannot beat this price point for what you get. All right, next is industry demand. Now, is there actually demand for data analysts in 2025? Absolutely. Data has become more valuable than oil or gold. Every company is drowning in data and they desperately need people who can make sense of it. So according to the latest numbers from Google, there are over 251,000 job openings in data analytics right now in the US alone. And that's actually higher than when I reviewed the certificate a few years back. And by the way, that's one thing to mention here is what's happening in data analytics is they're basically specializing in a lot of different industries. Just as an example, you have things as specialized as nurse informaticist, which is basically somebody who has nursing skills and also data analytics skills. So if you're a nurse watching this video, just as an example, you could tack on data analytics as a skill set and you can open up an entirely new career path for yourself, which is pretty freaking cool. Cool. And the US Bureau of Labor Statistics shows a growth rate of around 22% for market research analysts, which is much faster than the average. Now, here's why this market makes perfect sense. Companies are realizing that data-driven decision-making makes them more money. Period. Think about it. If you sell Lakers jerseys and you show your ad to 1 million random people, you might get 100 sales. But if you show that same ad to 1 million Lakers fans, you might get 10,000 sales. That's a 100x improvement from good data analytics. Now, that's a very simplified example, but that is an example of what you can do with data. It literally creates like a 100x improvement. Like imagine if you could put a billboard up where it only showed those ideas and things to people that it thought would be able to actually buy it instead of just showing everyone the same thing. That's basically what you can do with data. And what's even better is that data analyst skills are becoming valuable in almost every job. Marketing needs data analysis. Finance relies on data analysis. Healthcare is being transformed by data analysis. Even HR departments are using data analytics now. So even if you don't become a full-time data analyst, these skills make you more valuable in whatever career you're already in. So for industry demand, I have to give this this one a perfect 10 out of 10 as well. There's simply no denying that data skills are in massive demand right now. Now let's talk money. How much can you actually make after getting this certificate? Well, the 2025 data from Coursera claims that data analytics jobs have a median entry-level salary of $95,000. But is that actually realistic? Well, based on the most recent data from actual data analysts, the median total pay is around $91,000 per year, with a range of $70,000 to $118,000. Entry-level positions typically come in at the lower end of that range. So here's the breakdown. Base salary, $57,000 to $94,000. Additional pay, bonuses and profit share, about $13,000 to $24,000. So the total is $70,000 to $118,000. This is actually pretty good for a career that you can enter technically without having to get a college degree or go to a boot camp, and you can get into it in a matter of a few months. Now the salary also scales well as you gain experience. So if you move into roles like senior data analyst, which are $95,000 to $140,000, data scientist $110,000 to $160,000, or data engineer $120,000 to $170,000, you can obviously make a lot more money. And one important note, I've talked with people who've got this certificate and not all of them immediately landed, $90,000 jobs. Some started in the $60,000 to $70,000 range, especially in lower cost of living areas. So your mileage may vary based on location, prior experience, and how well you can sell yourself in interviews. So for what it costs, the ROI is absolutely insane. Spending less than $200 to potentially unlock a $70,000+ a year career, that's a no-brainer. So I'm gonna give this one a salary score of 9 out of 10. It's not the highest paying tech career, but it's extremely good considering the low barrier to entry. Next, let's talk about teaching quality. So this is where we get into the actual content of the certificate. Now, I've gone through the full curriculum and it's pretty decent. It's not mind-blowing, but it's solid. And the Google Data Analytics certificate contains 8 courses. We've got Foundations, which is data everywhere. Then we've got Ask Questions to make data-driven decisions. Then we've got Prepared Data for exploration. Then we've got Process Data from dirty to clean. Then we've got Analyze Data to answer questions. Then we have Share Data through visualization, Data Analysis with R programming, and Google Data Analytics Capstone Project. Now, the good stuff first. The courses are well-structured, bite-sized, and relatively engaging. They teach you actual practical skills like SQL, R, data cleaning, and visual techniques. But, and this is a big but, there are some glaring issues. First, they teach R instead of Python. Now, R is perfectly fine, but Python is far more popular in the industry. Second, the SQL instruction is pretty surface level. Third, there's not enough emphasis on statistics. Real data analysis requires understanding statistical concepts that this certificate barely touches on. And finally, some of the material feels padded. Now, on a positive note, the course does include some job search preparation, interview tips, and portfolio guidance. And that's more than most certificates offer. Additionally, Google offers specific benefits like having access to companies that specifically hire people who got the Google certs, which is pretty awesome. But for overall teaching quality, obviously it's just a cert, right? They're not hiring full-time people that you can, conversate back and forth with, right? You're not going through this with a class of other people where you're kind of learning things at the same time and you can collaborate with the other people. So there's always going to be some obvious downsides. They pretty much have to automate something that doesn't cost very much. So for teaching quality, I have to give this one a 7 out of 10. It's good, but not great, and you'll likely need to supplement it with other resources. Next is job prospects. Now, this is where things get really interesting. Can this certificate actually help you get a job? Well, based on my research, the answer is maybe. But I also found a few people saying things like, it's a very basic intro to data analysis, so if you're starting from zero, it can be helpful, but it won't be enough to get a job. Now, with that being said, I had overwhelmingly positive comments on my YouTube video that I did about this. So many people commented that they took the certificate and they got unbelievably good results from it. Like, there were very, very few bad comments on that video. And I got really good feedback from the students that I recommended it to. And overall, it has pretty good feedback on places like Reddit, which Reddit is kind of known for being like incredibly negative about everything. They just think everything is a scam on Reddit. So it gets pretty good feedback on Reddit. That's a pretty good sign. But here's a reality check. For most people, this certificate alone probably won't land you a job. You are going to need to build a portfolio of real projects beyond just the capstone project. So they do help you build a little bit of a portfolio in the certificate, but that's just the capstone project, right? You're going to need to do more than that. 2, you're going to need to network with people in the industry. Networking is incredibly powerful. Reach out to people, network with them. they will help you get a job. 3, you need to potentially learn additional skills like Python. And 4, you need to be able to ace technical interviews. So the certificate works best as a complement to an existing degree, a way to switch roles within your current company, foundational knowledge before building specialized skills, or a credential that gets you past initial HR screening, and then your portfolio, etc., does the heavy lifting. Now, Google claims that over 150 employers, including Deloitte, Target, and Verizon, recognize this certificate, which sounds like it would be helpful in getting past those ATS systems that filter out so many resumes. And Google also claims that 75% of certificate graduates report a positive career outcome within 6 months. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean landing a data analyst job, but it could be a promotion, raise, or new responsibilities. But it does suggest these skills do have real-world value. Now, I found some real success stories like this person who said, I finished the certificate soon after that comment as someone starting from zero. I work for a call center and applied for an internal posting for an entry-level position, real-time analyst, and soon after completing the course, they got the job and they've been in the position for 6 months. So for job prospects, the way I like to say it is it basically gives you a puncher's chance of getting a job, okay? It gives you a puncher's chance, and it's a very good tool to help you get the job, but it's not the only tool to get the job done, okay? You're also gonna need to do supplementary resources, and you're definitely going to need to build a portfolio, and I highly, highly recommend networking, even though technically you don't have to network, it just makes things way easier.
All right, guys, for 1 month only, we are accepting people into our coaching program, Content Growth Engine, where we help you to grow and make money from your personal brand. Now, this can apply to people who are just trying to get a better job, just grow their personal brand to get a better job. Literally the best way to do this. For instance, one of our clients, Josh, was able to get an offer from 2 different FANG companies, which are the hardest companies in the world to get into, even harder than Ivy League universities. Using his personal brand, or just as a side hustle, right? Just as a way to make a little bit of extra money on the side. We teach people how to do this, or people who are already making money to make more money, or people who already have a full-fledged business and they're crushing it, and they're, already have a successful YouTube channel and they want to optimize their YouTube channel and make even more money. So we've worked with literally every one of those types of people. And what makes our system so good is that we combine all of the best practices of building a personal brand, but we use AI to scale things to make it 10 times more efficient. It's something that no one else has ever discovered. It's an amazing opportunity, and that's why I'm so excited to share it with you. So we are accepting 3 to 5 people into the first cohort. You need to be very dedicated, right? Do not apply if you're not super dedicated to growing your personal brand. So you have to be serious, you have to be dedicated, you have to be willing to put in the time, effort, and money that it takes to grow a personal brand. So if that's you, go ahead, apply in the description in the pinned comment below, and hopefully we get to work together. Have a good one.
All right, so the overall value when we consider everything is gonna be just over 9 out of 10. So the time, the cost, the industry demand, the salary potential, the teaching quality, and the job prospects, how does the certificate stack up? In my opinion, the Google Data Analytics certificate offers exceptional value in 2025, and here's why. For less than $200 in a few months of your time, you can get a recognized credential from one of the world's most respected and biggest tech companies, and a company that, by the way, all the other companies kind of rely on. 2, real practical skills that are in high demand. 3, a pathway into a lucrative career field that's rapidly expanding and specializing. 4, flexibility to learn at your own pace. And 5, a foundation that you can build on with further specialization. Now, is it perfect? No. There's not going to be some kind of, you can't just spend $50 and get a $70,000 to $100,000 a year job out of it, right? That's not how the world works, unfortunately. You'll need to supplement your learning, you're going to need to build a portfolio, and you need to hustle to land a job. But the risk-reward ratio is off the charts. The worst case scenario is you spend like $40, $50 and you realize data analytics isn't for you and you move on with your life. That's actually a really good teaching lesson. You learn something about yourself. You realize, hey, data analytics isn't good for me. Maybe I can try out one of the other Google certificates, right? So it's a really cheap way to kind of dip your toe into learning the actual skills that companies need, because that's what these certificates is all about. Is, college and boot camps were not teaching people the skills that the companies wanted, so the companies are just like, screw it, we will teach them ourselves. So it's an absolute no-brainer when it comes to doing that. And the best case scenario is you spend a few $100 and a few months of study time to break into a career that pays $70,000 to $100,000 a year with major growth potential. So compare that to a 4-year degree or an expensive boot camp, and this certificate starts looking like an absolute no-brainer. So for the overall value, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. It's hard to imagine a better entry point into the field of data analytics. So adding all of these points up, I'm going to give this one a very high 8 out of 10 score, almost 9 out of 10. Now, let me be clear. This does not mean it's the only thing you need to become a data analyst, but it's an extremely cost-effective first step. And when these first came out a few years ago, I think they were basically a cheat code, and now they're still really good. And in fact, in some ways, you could argue that they're even better because of the fact that more companies know about them now. So more HR managers, decision makers, et cetera, are aware of them. But at the same time, more people have them. So the supply and demand imbalance isn't as in your favor. So I still think these are great, just in a little bit of a different way. So there's really only one thing to do. Check it out in the description in the pinned comment below. They have lots of reviews on that page. And also check out the video I did on 11 high paying certifications that you can get for remote jobs in 2025 by clicking right here.